Bruchim Habayim. Welcome to our Jewish Earth Alliance Tu Bishvat Virtual Lobby Day orientation. We are so grateful to all of you for signing up and agreeing to join us to lobby Congress right at the beginning of the 118th session. So thank you, first of all, and bless you for coming. I want to just say one word before I turn this over to our rabbi to start us out. And that is that lobbying in person, meeting with your legislators, is so important for the strength of our democracy. And at this time right now, we know that this is like an extremely important activity. And some of you may be a little bit intimidated, but we are going to give you all the tools you need to be able to participate and be effective citizen lobbyists. So thank you for being here. Now I'm going to turn it over to Rabbi Molly Weiser. She's very active in the Interfaith Power and Light of Washington State. She lives in Bellevue, and we are very thrilled to have her here tonight to open our meeting. Rabbi?
Thank you, Mirele. And thank you for the invitation from everyone to share a teaching this evening. So in addition to preparing for our Tu Bishvat Lobbying Day, I'm also getting ready to take a group of our teens from my congregation to Washington, D.C. this weekend for the RACS Litakein Social Justice Seminar. So I've been thinking a lot about how we teach our teens what it means to lobby and what in the world that has to do with being Jewish. And I was thinking, and I came to the exact section of Torah that we have been reading in synagogues over the last few weeks. So we recently began the book of Exodus, which is our epic story of liberation that we tell each year at Passover. And this is a story of transformation about an unassuming boy, Moses, who lived a comfortable life as the adopted son of the Pharaoh's daughter. Moses, who was both part of and apart from the Israelite slaves working in Egypt under the Pharaoh. And as Moses developed his own moral compass, he reacted to an injustice that he witnessed, an injustice carried out on an Israelite slave. Surely it would have been easier for him to turn a blind eye, but Moses could not ignore what he saw, and so he acted. And it was only later, after fleeing, that Moses came back and was able to find his voice to speak out on behalf of the entire nation. But I actually want to focus on another hero in that story, which is Moses' sister Miriam. In the beginning of the Exodus narrative, in chapter 2, verse 4, after their mother sent her little baby Moses down the Nile River in a basket, a desperate move, desperate to give Moses a chance to live, the Torah says, Vatetatzav achoto merachok, that his sister stood by at a distance to see what would happen to him. So this word, Vatetatzav, is significant. Usually when we talk about someone standing, we say amod. We oftentimes, with our religious school kids here, we say na la amod when we're in religious school tefillah and we want them to stand. But the word is not amod here, or vata amod, it's vatetatzav. And so that tells us that it's something that we should pay attention to. Why? Well, first of all, whenever the Torah uses a word that's not a common word or the normal word for something, that's a signifier that this is something important going on that we should pay attention to. But that word also has a deeper meaning. It really means something closer to stationing yourself, positioning yourself, or taking a stand. When Miriam and Moses' mother knew that she could no longer keep her baby hidden, she sent her vulnerable baby out into the world. And it was Miriam, she's the one who positioned herself to become an advocate for Moses. She brilliantly approaches the Pharaoh's daughter and lobbies her to take in this baby, ensuring that Moses will not only be able to live, but that he's going to be raised in a place of power, setting the stage for everything that's going to follow. This is an incredible story of Miriam taking a stand. speaking up to advocate for the needs of her own family, her own people. But most importantly, I think, it sets the stage for what's going to come many years later. If you were on the call last week with Rabbi Julie Sachs-Taller, she told us a wonderful story, and she taught us that God gives us this pep talk she talked about in Deuteronomy, where God says, surely this instruction is not too baffling for us. It's not beyond reach. That pep talk is part of a Torah portion called Nitzavim, and it starts with the words, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem. You stand here, all of you, today. But you may have picked up that once again, the word is not omdim. It's not you stand here, passively stand here. That word nitzavim is the very same root from that Exodus word, vatet tatzav. So really, we should be reading it as you take a stand this day, all of you. Surely it's not too hard. And so it turns out that to be Jewish is to be someone who takes a stand. It's to be someone who lobbies and to speaks up in the face of injustice, not just for our own benefit, but in order that our world may survive, that everyone shall have life, and that all living creatures shall long endure upon the soil that God gave to humanity. And that is exactly what we are preparing to do this evening. So thank you to everybody for organizing this evening, and I look forward to learning with you all about our lobbying day. Toda rabah.
Toda rabah, Rabbi Molly. Thank you so much. That was so inspiring. I love that. To be a Jew is to take a stand. And that is what we are going to do. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce Rabbi Melanie Aron. And I want to point out when I call on her, first of all, I have to start with a big thank you. Rabbi Melanie, along with our wonderful intern, Emily McClung, who you'll hear from later, have organized everything for this lobby day. And our organization, Jewish Earth Alliance, is a completely volunteer organization. So that means a lot of work. And they have done it brilliantly. So first I want to thank them. And Rabbi Melanie is going to speak with us about how we lobby. Thank you, Melanie.
All right. Well, thank you, Mirele, and thank you, Molly. What a great way to start us off. It's wonderful to see so many of you participating and to meet, at least virtually, some of you that I've spoken with on the phone. I'd like to echo Mirele's words that meeting with elected officials and staff members is about the most important interaction that we can have as citizens. Phone calls are great, emails are great, letters are great, but meeting with them is even more powerful. And if our senator is not available and we end up meeting with staff, we shouldn't be discouraged, because actually the staff are usually a little more expert in the field and know what's going on, and they are a great influence on our electives. So this evening, I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of a lobbying experience. Then Mirele is going to talk about our talking points and review them with you. And our wonderful, wonderful intern, Emily, is going to talk about logistics. After that, we'll try to take a few questions. Then we're going to divide into state delegations. And if you don't have a state, don't worry about it. Stay in the main room and we will sort everything out. So we mentioned already the Religious Action Center. And they do lobbying experiences, and they always talked about peas, and it always seemed a little strange to me since we don't really eat pig, but a colleague, Richard Israel, had a wonderful book, The Kosher Pig, so I'm going to go with the peas. Please be prompt, be ready at your computer 10 minutes before your assigned time, but be patient because electeds are often running late, and that's just how it is. Be ready to present your point of view. Be prepared, prepared, prepared. We're there to win friends and influence people. So you want to be your most persuasive and your most polite. You can be an advocate, but we're never going to be dismissive or rude. So put on your most personable, your most persuasive, your most positive and prophetic personality, persona, as you go forward into this. Talking a little bit further The structure of our meeting will be first welcome. The lead will ask if they feel comfortable with the prayer. We want to remind them that we come from a religious perspective. Each person will have a chance to introduce themselves. The parts will be assigned in advance, and we're always going to keep in mind the time frame because we typically only have a half an hour, and that will go by very, very fast. The meat of the meeting will be our talking points on our issues, and Mirele is going to present that in just a moment. Hopefully there will be some time for questions and responses. If the elected is sympathetic, we can ask how we can help. And if they're not sympathetic, we can ask what would it take to earn your support. We're going to close the meetings with thank yous and with any questions that we might want to resolve at a future time. Before we say goodbye, we want to be sure to express our appreciation. At the beginning, we can appreciate that which they have done already, and at the end, appreciate the time they spent with us. I created 2 to-do lists for the lead and for the participants. Leads, you'll get to see the members of your state delegation tonight, but do set up a meeting with your team, perhaps right before your lobby opportunity or maybe the night before. Figure out who's going to lead the prayer. Can you thank your senator for something that they've already done? Make sure you know the order of introductions. When we used to do these lives, we could go around the table, but of course on Zoom that can get a little confusing. Assign the talking points, remember the time frame, and be sure to send a thank you note. Participants, we're counting on you to be prepared to read over the material. I always find it helpful to put it in my own style of communication. If I write it out, then I know how long it's going to take. I speak about 100 words per minute. The suggestion is that you speak a little slower. Be sure that you're muted when you're not speaking. Know when it's your turn to talk. And remember that building a relationship means listening as well as speaking. We do have a sample prayer that you're welcome to use or to use something of your own. It has a little Hebrew, which makes it feel, for some of us, more authentically Jewish, but it's also comprehensible and comfortable for people of all backgrounds who might be with us in this room. And it's a reminder, again, that we come to this work from a religious point of view, and we find that among electeds and their staffs, that's much respected. Finally, at the end of the meeting, ask if it's okay to take a screenshot. That's a way of sort of preserving the experience. We're going to ask the lead to respond to a Google form with feedback so that we know how it went and what else we might need to do. Don't forget those thank yous. And I hope each of you, whatever your role, will feel good about what you have done in our democracy as a citizen lobbyist. So I hope this clears up a few of the questions you might have about how the lobbying will proceed. Now I'm going to turn things over to Mirele, who's going to talk with us about the talking points that we'll be using for our lobbying experience.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, now we're trying to be very businesslike here, and we're actually a couple of minutes ahead of schedule, believe it or not. So I'm going to ask everyone to put your name and where you're from in the chat so we can see how we have people from all over the country. We actually have 80 people lined up who have registered to lobby, and the registrations are still coming in. Tonight, we have 50 of you online, so it'll be lovely to see where you're all from. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go around and have everyone introduce themselves personally, but wow, that's wonderful to see you all checking in on the chat. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our substance, what we are going to be lobbying on. And of course, you know, there are so many issues related to climate change that we could be speaking about, but we're picking 3 that we really believe we can move the needle on. And for just a moment, I'm going to show you that you're going to be receiving a script for our meeting. So you'll have everything that I'm saying now, you're all going to have in writing. But just so you can see, we're going to be sending you a Google link. Actually, we'll put it in the chat. You'll be able to go to this Google folder. Do you see it? Good. Okay. And you'll be able to go to the Tu Bishvat Lobby Day script. where everything is written out for you. And you're going to go over this in a few minutes. You're going to be going over this in your group, in your state group, and making your assignments. So you can see that you'll be able to assign your roles, your note taker, your timekeeper, who's going to take the screenshot. And let's see, you're going to have everything that you need to say. And as Melanie said, if you want to, you can put this in your own language. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that and you've taken a role in the meeting, it's also fine to just read the script. So you can choose how you want to handle it. But this is what you're going to get in just a few minutes. So don't have to write everything down that I'm telling you. So we're going to be talking about 3 issues. The first one is the Recovering America's Wildlife Act. Now, before I get into the political details, just take a moment to think about, why does it matter to you to save America's wildlife? I'm sure you all know that as a result of climate change and other human impacts, we are now in the midst of the 6th extinction. Many, many species are disappearing from the earth. And in fact, North America has lost 3 billion birds since 1970. We are destroying the biodiversity of the planet. And Judaism teaches us that we're all connected in a web of existence. We already talked about Noah, how Noah saved 2 of every animal to help the world to recover from catastrophe. I recently heard a wonderful drash that took off from a text in the Zohar, in which God criticized Noah for not speaking up before the ark, before the flood, and not arguing like Abraham did to save the species, rather than just saving himself, his family, and 2 of each species. So this is deep, deep in our tradition. The Recovering America's Wildlife Act would send money to every single state and tribe to implement their own wildlife action plan. So this is a very popular bill. It has bipartisan support in the last session in both the House, where it passed with bipartisan support, and in the Senate. And it almost made it into the omnibus budget bill. So it came really, really, really close. And we think that it can get over the finish line in the coming session if we can really get everyone on board. So the first bill you'll be talking about is the Recovering America's Wildlife Act. You'll have information in your script. There are links in there so you can find out exactly how much money would go to your state, what species would be protected in your state. And that's something you can bring into your meeting. And just keep in mind how important this is in an era of climate change, that we protect all species. By the way, this covers not only animals, but plants as well. The second bill that we're going to be talking about is called the Agriculture Resilience Act. And the reason we're focusing on this is that in the current session, the Congress is supposed to pass a farm bill. This is one of the biggest pieces of legislation that Congress passes, and they have to reauthorize it every 5 years. And this is one of those years. And the farm bill has so many implications for how we manage the land in this country. Our in the light of climate change, farms need to be much more resilient so that we will have the food that we need. And the way we manage soil also has a big impact on climate change, because the soil captures carbon. If you want to learn more about this, you can check our website, jewishearthalliance.org, and you can read some of the action alerts that we've written about all of these issues, actually, so you can get more background if you want more background. You all know that the Torah talks a lot about agriculture. The Torah teaches that we need to care for people and the land together, that they can't be separated. Personally, I'm a big fan of the teaching about the sabbatical year, that every 7 years we have to let the land lay fallow. And that's really part of what's in the Agricultural Resilience Act. How do we take care of the land and take care of the people together? There are a lot of measures specifically related to climate change in this bill. that would pay farmers to reduce emissions from their farms. It would help them to put renewable energy on their farms, which is good for reducing our emissions overall, but also good for the income of the farmers. So this Agricultural Resilience Act, if it gets enough support, could be incorporated into the Farm Bill. So it would have a good chance of getting passed because the Farm Bill has to be passed every 5 years. They need to pass it. So we're supporting the Agricultural Resilience Act. By the way, we're working closely with Chazon on that. And if you go to the Chazon website, chazon.org, you can find a lot more information about agriculture and its relationship to climate change. And then finally, our third bill, well, it's not really a bill. We're going to be speaking with the senators because we're only going to the Senate on this lobby day. We're going to be speaking with our senators' offices about how they're going to implement the Inflation Reduction Act. So I hope that you all know what a huge, huge win the Inflation Reduction Act was in terms of climate solutions. It's the most important bill that has ever passed that's directing resources toward climate solutions. We need to celebrate that and we need to build on that incredible momentum. And one of the ways we do that is by making sure that the Inflation Reduction Act is actually implemented. So on this lobby day, we're going to focus on the parts of the Inflation Reduction Act that have to do with environmental justice. A basic principle of Judaism is love your neighbor as yourself. We have to take care of the communities that have been most impacted by the fossil fuel economy, the pollution, and the effects of climate change. And the bill has billions of dollars in it to be directed toward environmental justice communities. But the environmental justice activists are worried that this money will not make it to their communities. So we're going to talk about that. The Senate has an oversight role to make sure that bills that are passed are implemented correctly by the administration. So you're going to be asking your senators or their staff, how are they going to be involved in oversight of the Inflation Reduction Act, and particularly in making sure that the measures related to environmental justice are implemented. I just want to say one last thing before I turn it over, which is that I've had the pleasure of lobbying many times on Capitol Hill as well as virtually. And one thing that I learned from going there is that there are a lot of corporate lobbyists always lobbying our electeds. It's really kind of horrifying to see how many of them are wandering the halls and meeting regularly with our electeds. They really need to hear from us. Even if you think that your legislators are already supportive, you still need to tell them that you care and that you notice that they're doing the right thing, because they are hearing all the time from Exxon lobbyists and other corporate lobbyists. And if your members of Congress are not doing the right thing, they also need to hear from you that not everyone agrees with them, that their constituents are watching what they are doing and that you are not happy with their the way they are voting and what they are supporting. So I want to thank you again for stepping up to really participate in our democracy and bring a moral Jewish voice to the Senate. Okay, now we'll be taking some questions later, but for now we're going to move on to Emily McClung, our wonderful intern from Swarthmore, without whom we never could have done this, who's going to talk a little bit about the logistics. Go ahead, Emily.
All right. Hi, everyone. We're excited to have you all here. And I'm sure you all want to know when your meetings are. I'm going to share, is it possible to that, can I share my screen, Ed?
Mirele, would you make Emily a co-host?
But yeah, so, okay, here we go. Hold on 1 second. All right. Okay. Here we go. Can everyone see the schedule? All right, great. So you all will be getting this Google Sheet, and it has all the information you need to know for your meeting. And I know it looks like there's a lot of stuff happening on it, but you only need to pay attention to the information for your state. So just find your state on the side here. And it has information like your meeting lead, how to contact them, who you'll be meeting with, what time, the Zoom link will be in there, and other info that you need to know. Basically, as you can see, some of this hasn't been filled in yet, and I'm still working on finishing up the scheduling for some meetings. So you can check back in with this every couple days to see updates. And we want you to be in touch with your lead to confirm if you can go to a certain meeting, and you can email them finding their contact information on this sheet. And also, one other note is just pay attention to the time zone. We have people from all over, so we're working with multiple time zones here. Yeah, and then as Melanie and Mirele said, we're only meeting with senators on Tu Bishvat. And on the day of the call, we recommend signing on about 10 minutes early. If the Zoom link is coming from the staff member, you might have to wait until they let you on. And you can tell who is the host of the Zoom link by this other info column here. And yeah, I think that's about it. So yeah, I think we're going into breakout rooms now. And so in order to do that, let's see. We're gonna go into breakout rooms by state, and if your state is not shown, don't worry, you will stay in the main room. And to join the breakout, go to your meeting controls. This is a square icon divided into 4 parts, probably on the bottom of your screen. And this will display the list of breakout rooms for each state. If needed, you can click Expand All to see all the available rooms, and hover your pointer over the number to the right of the breakout room you wish to join, and then confirm by clicking Join again. And if you have any trouble, Ed will help you. In your breakout rooms, your group leader will facilitate, and you can introduce yourselves. We suggest you go through the script and maybe assign roles for the meeting. Again, the link to the script is in the chat. You will have 10 minutes. And again, after tonight, you'll have plenty of time to look over the script and, read more about what Mirele and Melanie have said. And then after that, I believe we'll do questions. So yeah, thank you all.
Emily, I think I'm the only one from Washington State, but I actually have to go pick up my kids. So I'm going to log off if that's okay.
Okay, thank you so much. And we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you so much. Good night.
I need help. I need help getting on to California.
Is that Susan?
Yes.
Let me see if I can assign you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Others, are you from states that are not on the list or just having trouble finding the list? Okay, so I'm gonna.
I can't find the list. I'm
Okay,
from Maryland.
Arlene, I will assign you to Maryland.
Okay. Where is the list? Oh, well.
It's under breakout rooms, but let's see.
Where is breakout?
Andy, you're Massachusetts. Is that correct?
It's a little embarrassing that nobody seems to be here. I guess they think that Markey and Warren don't need any lobbying.
You're right. There's nobody in there right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we'll get back to you and see. Are you part of an organization?
I think there will be people. I think there were people who couldn't come tonight, but they will be there. So we will coordinate.
Okay, great. If you would coordinate with them, that would be very helpful. Let's see. Eliane?
Yeah, I also know people who I can get to.
What state are you?
Oh, Oregon.
Oregon. Oh, I don't know that Oregon has even appeared on our list, Emily.
I don't think so.
Are you registered through the bit.ly for the lobbying?
I did.
Okay. We're going to take note of that and we're going to figure out, are you part of a group that might come?
Yeah, I'm part of Havara Shalom. We have a climate action team and
okay, great.
And I've done lobbying before.
Great. Yeah, I figured a lot of people here.
If I could interrupt a moment. Arthur, there are 4 folks in Pennsylvania. Would you like to join them?
Arthur, yes? I think Arthur said yes.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Is the link to the list in the chat?
No, let's see, Barbara, in the chat is the link to the document. What state do you live in?
Connecticut.
Okay, I will send you to Connecticut, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Ed.
Stephanie Ross also.
You're also Connecticut? Okay, we'll get the 2 of you off to Connecticut. All right. So everyone is someplace, and we'll give them, maybe we'll give them even a slight bit more than 10 minutes, if that's okay, because it took a little to get everybody where they're going.
Yeah.
So Eliane, you said Chavarat Shalom, is that?
Chavarat Shalom, yeah, in Portland, Oregon.
Okay, is that a Reconstructionist group or?
It is. And we have a climate action team.
Great.
And then I also work with Citizens Climate Lobby, which is where I've done the lobbying. And I know someone there who's Jewish, so I can't get, I know there's one woman said, I really want to do lobbying. So I'll be able to get a few people.
Okay,
that's great. I mean, I've been writing relatives in states that we didn't have enough people. So by whatever means we have.
I know, right. Yeah. Yeah. I've sometimes I made calls on behalf of oh, my sister-in-law lives there. I'll call in her name,
Exactly. What kind of things does your climate action group do?
We coordinate with a lot of other groups in the area because all of us on the team are involved with other groups as well. So we do educational pieces. Our synagogue is good for hosting events. So we do that. Sometimes we do a lot with locally with Zenith Energy and liquefied natural gas stuff. We do things, working on our own, getting our own building climate friendly.
Great.
Coordinating with the Jewish Federation. So,
in my former congregation in California, it was sort of a mix of things that were outward facing, like advocacy, and then things in the building. Can we compost? We got
Right.
solar panels. Can we get people to eat less meat? Can we get
Right.
people to carpool? You know, some of those
Right.
practical things.
Right. So personal actions, but we also, well, it's like the political actions too. And we usually coordinate with other groups.
Yeah. Andy, do you want to tell us a little bit about your involvement?
I'm very frustrated. Many years ago, I was on the social action committee. We did a poll of our congregation. We listed about a dozen topics and asked them what was important to them. Climate was one of the top ones. So we chose climate, and we created a group called ARC, standing for Acting to Reverse Climate Change. That's a name everybody is welcome to use if you want. And it went very well for a while. We were organizing people. We had a group that met. We would lobby and stuff. But 2016 came along. Suddenly, we had a great increase in social action people in general doing social justice work. But they all got involved in these other things that seemed more pressing because of the 2016 election. And ARC just kind of vanished on me. There's still people on a mailing list who I can talk to. None of them wanted to come to the Tu Bishvat thing.
Yeah, well,
trying to rebuild.
It's hard because, in a sense, environmental issues is the most pressing because the impact is very significant. But we do get distracted by democracy, abortion. I mean, these are real issues as well.
Sure. So I figured anyone who's working on something that deals with democracy is working with climate change.
That's true.
I accept it that way.
Natalie, what state are you?
I'm in Illinois.
So there should be a group. Was there a group?
There were no other people, just me. There's supposed to be two others. They're not here, but I will, I guess I'll reach out to them and just make sure they're still interested and gonna be able to do that with me. But Emily, I know that we haven't set our absolute time for that yet. We're still waiting to hear from Durbin's office, correct?
Let's see. So I think we're still waiting to hear back from Durbin's office, and then also the same with Senator Duckworth.
Okay, great. So you'll let me know.
Yeah.
And if not, I have a question.
People, let us know, because both Mirele and I know some people in Chicago whose arms we can twist if necessary. So you'll let us know if your people can't come with you.
Okay, that'll be great. What's the deal if they can't? Can I go by myself?
You could, but we'd rather round up a couple of people to go with you.
That's great. Okay, I will do my very best.
Yeah,
to get them.
They always ask how many people are coming, so we have the sense that they think a group is more important than one person. They know one person to be very important, but
they have no idea what they're messing with. What are they kidding? I get it. Yeah.
You can, even if you need more people around at maybe some friends or something, that they don't necessarily have to be Jewish, but as long as you can say I'm a constituent and you can be the spokesperson.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure I can rile up some people. I'm just traveling right now, so it's a little challenging, but I'll do my best.
Melanie, Rondi Brower from Michigan is also the only one in her breakout room.
Oh, well, we should invite her to come back here. And I know today, both Mirele and I were writing to people in Michigan to try to round up people, but if she comes back in here, maybe she can talk to us about that.
Yeah,
and
can we
get her, bounce her back? She should be able to bounce herself. She just has to.
I can go in there and ask her to come back.
Okay, thank you.
It was a good opportunity to read the form.
Yeah, there's lots of information there. We tried to make it easy, so the link to find out how people vote is really very helpful.
It's terrific. No, really, it's a really good piece of it's a really good resource. Thank you.
So
nice to have it made easy.
Do you have like I'm thinking like in states like part of Citizens Climate Lobby, we've got there's a Jewish break group, and I'm wondering like if there's states that's like, this is a Republican Senate, like states that we really need people that we don't have. whether if you want, then if you let me know, I can reach out to those folks and see if they want to do that. Because a lot of us do. I mean, Citizens Climate Lobby came to our Jewish Earth Alliance thing we once did together. So I think, you know, that might be good.
No, that's great. It is very important that people be able to say their constituents. That is when they go around and introduce themselves. Yeah. I live in wherever it is.
Right.
But as long as they live in the state, and that's the great thing about senators, is you don't have to worry about the districts. So.
Right. And so then I'm wondering, like at some point, if you say these are the states that we're missing, that maybe I can reach out to those people who are I
wrote down your name, and
okay,
Mirele and Emily we're gonna talk a little later this week. And if we see a state that's weak, we'll let you know and see if we can recruit some more. So we'll see what's happening with Natalie, for example, and with Andy. Rondi, nice to see you. I understand you were alone today in your group. Emily, can you tell us, do we have other people?
We have a recent sign up of one other person, but Rondi, I believe you also might know some people who are coming.
That is certainly my hope, expectation, and goal. So yes, I do not intend to be by myself, not to worry.
All right, well, if that becomes a problem, you know, just holler back to us and we will reach out to Eliane and she'll send us some more people in your state. There we go. Or we'll find relatives and friends.
So Melanie, people should be coming back in the next 30 seconds or so.
Okay, so then we'll take questions for a couple of minutes. And
can I ask one last thing? I'm unclear about how long these meetings are scheduled for.
Most of the time they're scheduled for 30 minutes. I think if they're less or more, Emily would let us know.
Yeah, I think most will be 30 minutes.
Okay.
I have a question about screenshot, because I've been on a lobby meeting where it was just a call, and the participants, we had a Zoom of our own so that we could see who was talking and so on, but the staffer couldn't tell anything, you know.
Our hope is that all of these meetings will be Zoom so that both the staffer and you will be able to see everybody.
Okay.
And you do have to ask permission from the staffer or the senator to take the screenshots. Usually they say yes, they're glad to be seen with constituents, but it is proper to ask their permission. So what we're going to do now for about 6 or 7 minutes is take some questions. Why don't we start with questions in the chat, and then I will call on you and then you can unmute and ask your question verbally. You can also, like Rabbi Franklin, raise your hand electronically and I will call on her for the first question.
Oh, great. Well, this is actually an appreciation. I just wanted to say very much a big thank you to Emily, who has been incredibly responsive. Every time I throw her a question, she answers back like within nanoseconds. And it's really super helpful, especially when you're working across time zones. I don't know if you've noticed, you know, you always have to clarify if you're in a time zone different from Washington, D.C., whether the meeting that you're having with your representative, your elected, or their representative is in the DC time zone or your own, if they happen to be different. So Emily's been fabulous for that. And I just want to offer that appreciation. That's it.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. We feel that way as well. Oh my goodness. I don't know what STWG is. If someone knows, please put that in the chat. The border adjustment mechanism that Senator Whitehouse spoke about had to do with the carbon issues. Let me see if Mirele wants to speak with us.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, Joyce. Great question. Glad to hear you were listening to Senator Whitehouse. I was also very interested in what he had to say about the social cost of carbon. which is very important. But we're going to ask that people stick with our topics that we have picked for this particular lobby day. We are really hoping that you're going to catch the bug and sign up to do some future lobby meetings. But with the limited amount of time that we have, we're going to ask that you not bring up other topics during this meeting. As far as I think Rondi asked about the Recovering America's Wildlife Act. What's STWG? That's not in the script. Where did you see that, Rondi?
It's on the page where it says how much money each state gets. There's a column for Recovering America's Wildlife, and then there's this other column that says whatever I said those initials.
I'm going to go look at that now. I don't remember that, and I will get back to you with the answer for that.
Okay.
And I think for the plant and animal species by state, people should look at the material. I don't think we can answer on a state-by-state basis. That's Arthur's question from Ardmore, Pennsylvania. In terms of debriefing, I think it's great if your individual state delegation would like to get together. We have not currently planned an event for everyone to get together. Arthur, were you going to say something?
When I say species to protect, is that specified in the legislation, or is it to be determined?
There's a formula, and it's already been. I believe that the link that I gave you was to the form that shows how much each state will get according to that formula. I believe it has something to do with how many species are on their, on their lists and their own wildlife action grant. As far as
could I look up the list?
Yeah, you need the link is in the script. It gives you the link. You click on that link, and the wonderful coalition that we're working with the National Wildlife Federation that's working on this bill has prepared that information for us. And Rondi, I believe that STWG is what they're currently getting, which you'll see is very little compared to what they would get from the new bill. But I will get back to you with specifics.
And Anna, I think, has found it means state and tribal wildlife grants, which makes sense since these kinds of abbreviations are used a lot. Susan has her hand raised for a question.
Hi. I'm very impressed with how organized this all is. Thank you so much. You've obviously been working hard to get us to this point. I don't understand what it means to be a sponsor or a co-sponsor of a bill. I'm looking at the actual bill, and I don't see the senator's name. So does that mean that she hasn't sponsored it?
Bills typically have many, many sponsors. Because that's an important way of showing support. If she hasn't sponsored it, then her name is not present.
Yeah. So then in that case, do we address that?
Yeah. You could invite her to sponsor, sometimes it's just because it hasn't caught the attention of their staff to do so. Sometimes it's for other deeper reasons.
I'll just add to that in the case of the two bills that we're talking about, the Recovering America's Wildlife Act and the Agricultural Resilience Act, we are asking all of the offices that we speak with to co-sponsor. The bills, somebody brought this up and I should have explained it previously. These bills were both introduced in the last session. As I said, the Recovering bill almost passed. So a lot of legislators have sponsored it, but they are going to have to re-sponsor it again now when it's introduced for this session. So it's totally appropriate if they already sponsored it in the last session. You can thank them for co-sponsoring it in the last session, but ask them, are they going to co-sponsor it in this session? And we're asking you to report back, because if we find out someone is going to co-sponsor it, we can pass that on to the sponsor's office. So that's really, really helpful. With the Agricultural Resilience Act, it had very few co-sponsors in the past session. So probably your senator has not co-sponsored it, but we really want them to co-sponsor it, because if it gets a lot of co-sponsors, that means people are basically promising to vote for it. They're co-sponsoring it. Then it will have more chance of being incorporated into the Farm Bill, which is probably the only way it can actually pass. So the sponsorship,
if they have a reason, if they have a reason that they're not co-sponsoring it, then are we going to hear that reason?
Yeah, you want to ask them, as Melanie said earlier, ask them why are they not co-sponsoring it, or, you know, and what would it take to get them to sponsor it? Could we provide them with more information? Or, you know, if they give you a specific reason why they have a concern with the bill, that's really helpful for us to report back to our coalition partners, the ones who are really working on the details of the bill.
I appreciate all the helpful material that people are putting in the chat. I don't see any other questions at this moment. I'll give you one more minute to raise an, here we go, an electronic hand. Rabbi Franklin.
Hi, me again. So I'm really taking to heart the fact that this is largely a volunteer effort. And I just want to volunteer to help do follow-up, because I think there will be some lessons learned. And if we can, you know, if we can highlight those things and use them as stimulus for next efforts, I think that would be marvelous. And I think there will be a finite amount of data. There's 50 states, you know.
Yeah, well, we're not going to hit all 50, but we're going to hit those.
But I'm just saying it is a finite. It's a finite data set, so I think it won't be impossible to do that. So I would really love to be in touch with you personally.
Great.
And I volunteer to help.
I wrote down your name. We will be in touch. Not to worry. We
thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, great.
Let's see, Phyllis, I think you have a hand up as well. Oh, you've got to unmute. Let's see. I'm going to ask you to unmute. There you go.
I've asked for this a couple of times. I don't have the link for the spreadsheet. If you could put it in the chat, and you never scroll down. So those of us who are further down the alphabet never saw whether we had appointments yet.
Okay. I think it's one of the 3 docs that Mirele linked to, but Emily, if you want to put a direct link in the chat for people.
Yeah,
that would be great. All right, and I realize I'm not sure the prayer was in the doc, but I'll make sure it gets in there. Can we send you the entire chat? I will talk to Ed about that, but we will see. I think we're getting towards the end of our meeting, and I've been so impressed with the Jewish Earth Alliance that their meetings conclude at the time that they say they're going to conclude, which is something I'm sure we can all appreciate. But I do want to take a moment for a reflection. I am, after all, a rabbi. That's what rabbis do. What can I say? Our portion this week, Parshat Bo, was always very interesting to me, because even while the Israelites were still slaves in Egypt, they had not yet left, they're already worrying about what's going to happen in future generations. And that seemed very significant to me, and significant for our work. That's those famous words in chapter 12, which we also read for Shabbat HaChodesh. When your children ask you, right, which eventually becomes the 4 questions. So the concerns that we have, the concerns that I think are motivating many of us to be active in this way, are concerns for the well-being of future generations. And there are also concerns that our children or our grandchildren are going to ask us down the road, what were you doing back then? What were you doing when all this news was released about the direction our world was taking? And I think we want to be able to say that we stood up, we acted in this time to make things better for the future. So Lador Vador, we are a mixed generational group taking a stand on our future. I want to thank all the leads. I want to thank all the participants. I want to thank our tech team. I want to thank Emily, our wonderful, wonderful intern, without whom we could not get this put together. I want to thank the founder of the Jewish Earth Alliance, Mirele Goldsmith, And I want to wish you all a great evening. We look forward to hearing about your experiences on February 6th. Those who want to leave to continue their evening are welcome to do so, but we will stay online for a few more minutes if you had a question that you didn't want to ask when everybody was here. So again, thank you so much. Erev Tov, have a good evening.